boom 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 a boom boom ba ba dum bum ba boom bum ba boom bum boom ba dum boom boom ba boom bum ba boom bum ba boom bum. But I am
representation of something real, right? But the point, were you making the point that that which is real is even more intangible than the or? In other words, the etzem is more intangible than the or? Is that a true statement? Well, it's not. It's just not the point.
It wasn't the point. The point was to understand the words. What does it mean?
Right. That's down here. It's a reflection. It's a representation of the Orient Social Tzimtzum.
That's right.
And so
Like we said, we focused in on the words Surah Atzmis.
What is this? What's the translation of the phrase we're trying to understand?
The phrase is that even though that it comes after to the Tzimtzum, and to the Tzimtzum the oil becomes be'erech oilumus, and yet it is nimshach from the oilus of shelifnei hatzimtzum. So I tried to emphasize and to bring out the significance of these words. Nimshach, it is nimshach. It is drawn from the oilus of shelifnei hatzimtzum. What does that mean? It is drawn from the oilus of shelifnei hatzimtzum. What's the significance of this term? Everything comes from Eibush all the way. So it is nimshach. Nimshach in Yisrael means that there is an element of the Ein Sof Shel Lifnei HaTzimtzum that comes along in this Hamshach. Nimshach. This is what we've explained when we spoke about Memalek Olam V'Sevek Olam. There's a Oyer Meyam Shenimshach Zer HaOr. And we explained that in Meyam Shenimshach means that there is the Sevek Olam is that is what initiates the Memalek.
Nimshach literally means pulled, right?
Drawn.
Oh, so the thing itself is being drawn.
He's drawn from there.
Oh, it's drawn from there.
He draws from there. Like we explained then. Okay, I'll tell you.
Go ahead.
Before we go, I'd like, because it was kind of a struggle this morning, and I felt then that what we are missing and what we are not focused on, and nobody's we can't be blamed for that, but I say the fact, the concept of oir. What is oir? And I kind of thought I have to start from all the way to the beginning, reintroducing the whole principle of Oyer. Oyer, as we pointed out, comes from an atzmi. And what is an atzmi? What is an etzem? Maybe that's where we should really start. But the etzem is really, there's not much you can say about it because there is no counterpart in the world for etzem. There is no moshel for etzem. Well, we do have the sun, for example. But there too, we have to dig in and understand what we mean by that. But we'll discuss that and we'll say and point out why, what does it mean that oil is nimshuk from etzem. And in the truth, oil nimshuk from etzem is a direct reality. In other words, the Milo is an exception. The original oil, that there is no oil, there's nothing there, and oil is created volitionally. But beyond that, anything below that, oil and etzem go together. Every etzem has oil. Let us focus on the principle of etzem for the moment and see what we can identify with it. I mean, we are using that term. We have to be able to kind of grasp and relate to it. And here is how we can begin to relate to it. Etzem means something that is, the word etzem means an essence, meaning it is not something that is dependent on some kind of a functional benefit, contribution. It is true unto itself. Now, the real union of etzem in our world is the human being. The human being really correctly represents etzem because that is his created b'tzalmeni, can you say? And as we always point out, the human being, his contribution to the world is overwhelming, is fundamental. Without the human being, the world is senseless, worthless, sense for nothing. The human being brings to the world a real presence. There's a real thing here. We went through this many times. And I believe that we have touched over the years and touched the human element in us, that we sense this. Because to sense this, we have to touch, so to speak, the nefesh, the human element. We cannot sense this logically. There is no logical argument for it. In the world, there's a whole argument whether the human being is superior to an animal altogether. But bottom line, everybody recognizes human being is not in the category of an animal altogether. It's a different category. And their difference is so profound that Without the human being, with all the animals around, there is no world, no reality, and the human being brings a reality to it. Why? How is it changing? So one thing that we can point to, again, this is a question of us recognizing it. We cannot explain that phenomenon itself, but we can recognize it. We can recognize its presence. Why do we recognize its presence? For example, a person who is Rahman in the very last moments of his life, he is totally incapable of doing anything. He cannot produce, he cannot functionally affect the world. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
The halacha is that he is alive in every respect, halacha 100%. And if Chas v'sholom somebody shortens his life by 1 second, he literally is guilty of murder. What has he done? What has he done?
What's he done?
Yeah.
He has he's blotted out Hashem's presence.
What?
He's removed Hashem's presence from the world.
But this man, he couldn't do anything. He couldn't do mitzvahs, he couldn't learn, he couldn't daven, he couldn't do anything.
He has significance that's not dependent on any function. He is
That's
significant.
Right, and this is my point. This is called an etzem. A reality that's real in and of itself, not because of any contribution, any functionality that we can contribute. And as you pointed out correctly, we discussed it again. What is this etzem? Where does he get that fundamental truth and reality? This is Eibishter's presence in the human being, because only the Eibishter is that truth. Only Hashem is that truth, and Hashem has bestowed, has created the human being to represent that truth in the world. And this is how the world has acquired its true value, by the presence of the human being. Because in the world there is Hashem's presence. Hashem is participant, so to speak, in the goings on in the world. The human being, by virtue of his presence in the world, just presence, makes it real. Not by virtue of his action. By presence. Because of that, because his presence is so real, this is why his actions matter enormously. The right and wrong by human being is a fundamental value. Okay? So, here is where we're coming to the next step, identifying Oir. Because there's that reality in the person. Well, we're saying that his presence itself, that's real. Therefore, there's a next step. What is the next step? that the human presence is not limited to him himself. But when there is a human being, that presence is recognized all around him. Like we say, the human being has a name. Not only that he has a name, his own name, but that name can be applied to articles outside of himself.
Is that the principle by which you just said before, that the world has the significance because of the presence of the human being? Because the significance of the world, in other words, the human being has his presence extends beyond himself to the actual world. This is what makes the world significant, or it's some different stuff?
No, this is beyond. The primary thing is his presence itself. But that presence, because of virtue of the truth, inherent truth of that presence affects outside of itself.
Through
Like
or,
we said,
through or
this is like oil, right? Name is like oil. That's over here. What effect is, like we said, a human being has, tell me if you understand the principle of ownership. Do you understand what that is? How do you own something that is 1,000 miles away from you?
Yep. It's not by convention, it's through the or of the essence.
Yes. And again, please understand, only human being has that possibility of ownership. Animals also, quote unquote, need to eat. They need to graze. Need a hole where to be, where to raise their young. Don't say that they have ownership. A human being has ownership. What does it mean he has ownership? How do you own? And where does he get it from?
Where does it get it from?
Yeah.
But only
How do you make? How does ownership work? In what way?
Right.
In what sense do you own something?
And there's no real answer except that by virtue of being essence, he
That's
gets
it.
to own
Exactly
it.
right. But still, this item is outside of yourself. That means that your essence spread outside of itself. Even though your essence is whatever it is. But there's a certain means by which your essence can be applied to an item outside. This is called name. This is called oyer. Okay? This is called oyer. And here, again, only a human being in our world can have that quality. And here again, we see how it's possible to lose sight of this. It's possible to lose sight of this. What's the difference? You need a place to be, the animal needs a place to be. What's the difference? I would say there is a fundamental difference, an infinite difference.
An animal doesn't have an essential existence?
Sorry?
Are you saying an animal doesn't have an essential existence?
Someone doesn't have essential existence.
He doesn't have to be there. Doesn't
No. He's
intrinsically he doesn't have
no. He has whatever purpose he serves, and everything that was created has a purpose. Ecological balance, whatever it is, every animal, everything that has its purpose. But that's what it is. It's a purpose, a functional purpose, a purpose that is realized to some kind of a function.
Couldn't it do the function without, I don't know, couldn't the zebra do its function without having black and white stripes?
But I have what?
Black and white stripes.
Black and white.
Stripes.
Stripes. And the things
Stripes.
The zebra.
Come on. Whatever the reason whatever its creation, that's what the Rebbe created. And this is how it accomplishes its function. But it's all functional. It's all functional. Only the human being represents a godly reality in the world, which is beyond function,
So
not measurable by function.
that means both the etzem and the or is beyond explanation. A purpose beyond description. I mean, these
Not
are
purpose, a presence.
presence beyond any function, beyond any purpose. So
Yeah.
it's very okay. It is what it is. It's very
No, not what it is. It's not what it is. That's exactly the level at which we touch our real intelligence. And this is where we have the real challenge. Just as we are saying now that only the human being...
Can I just ask a question before I lose the thought, Rabbi Paltiel?
Go ahead.
An animal, even though he has a purpose, a zebra, he may have a purpose, but he doesn't have a presence.
That's right.
Is that true?
Yeah, it doesn't... That's right. There's a presence means a reality beyond functionality.
So anything that is not a human being doesn't have that, and therefore doesn't have
That's right.
a presence.
Only the human being has. That's what we ask all the time. What would the world be without the human being? Virtually everybody recognizes. Boy, without a human being, what's the point? And the human being comes into the world, and there's no question what's the point. Yeah, it's real. Why? What happened? Because there's something that is essentially real. Now this is a real world. Like we said, all kinds of different demonstrations in terms of our perception. If the world should be destroyed, and there's no suffering, so from a worldly purpose, from perspective, there's nothing happened.
Mhm.
What is lost is certain godly reality, represented in the human being.
Mhm. Right. When
So let me just,
Yeah.
I was in the middle of a sentence.
yeah.
Just as, listen to this, just as this is true, that only the human being possesses that reality, only the human being can understand that reality. Only the human being possesses the status and the that's essentially what intellect is all about.
That is what.
What intellect is all about. Only human being possesses the ability to relate to this. This is why we're so insistent on this.
Mhm.
You're saying, because to understand it through any kind of a logical process, you'll never get there.
Right.
This is what's called
See?
right?
Okay.
Chokhmah. This is what's called Chokhmah.
Because logically it doesn't function.
Logically, you never get the Chokhmah. Chokhmah means the insight, the sense of the reality itself, which comes to Dvekis.
Comes through.
Which comes to Dvekis, like sight. Sight, we say, we see the object without having the need to touch it. And it's very real. Why? Because sight identifies the reality, it relates to the reality of things, of the thing. I said the other thing, this I never had a chance to say to myself as I was thinking. See if we can follow this. It's an interesting presentation. Lahadl, the animal, also sees. What's the difference between our sight, to us, the visibility of the world, and to the animal Lahadl?
Even their sight is tangible, basically. Their sight is basically what...
Their sight identifies something that's tangible to them. By us, our tangibility identifies something that's visible. Just the opposite.
One more time, for the human being, tangibility identifies what's...
Something that's visible, something that's real. To us, visibility, that is our standard reference point.
What does it mean?
Yitzchak agrees.
What
He
does
gets
it mean
the
that the
point.
tangibility... What does that mean, that tangibility identifies something that's real? When you touch something?
It's only significance.
Right, you touch something and you begin to imagine, okay, why is it here? What is this all about? You project from that the visibility element.
In other words, the human being's always going to be drawn to figure out what's behind it.
What's real?
What's
Yes.
what's it all
Why is
about?
it here? Why do we explain the visibility element, the significance of it?
Could you just say again the way you originally said it?
To the animal, the visible represents the tangible. When it sees something, it's projecting its tangibility. The human being, the tangible projects to the visible. What makes it real when you touch it is the fact that you know that it's also visible.
Because we see it.
Because
that's why we know it's tangible.
well, no, we're not interested in tangible. We're interested in invisible. What's the difference between visible and tangible? Visible is the experiential. Tangible, not visible. The tangible is the experiential, right? We touch something, so we experience it. The visible is the intellectual.
Or you don't be visible actually seeing it.
The visible actually seeing it in the true sense of the word. Huh?
Yeah. You don't mean seeing, you mean a deeper kind of seeing.
I mean seeing in the simple sense of the word as a human being sees. Please understand, we all have this muscle of the clock on the wall. The clock on the wall has all kinds of tangibility. Like it's a clock, and it's hanging on a wall, and it has a nail, and it has whatever it is. There's a certain intangible element in the clock hanging on the wall. That is its significance. What is its intangible element? The human element. It represents a human dwelling. Why is the clock on the wall? Not because the clock is, because the wall, because there's a clock, but because there's a human being here. It's a human dwelling.
Why is not what hits you when you see?
Why is what hits you? That's the only thing that's real to the person. What's its significance? Why is it here? When you come into this room and you see a table and chairs, what do you see? A table and chairs, or you see a dining room? This very same table and chairs in Macy's, does it represent the same thing as here in this room?
Because they have memory,
Think
they
about
have
it.
awareness of what a house is, have ideas.
No. That's exactly what we're trying to identify. Here's a very clear illustration of this principle we said before. When you go to Macy's and you see a table and chairs, you're projecting what this would look like in your dining room. How would it fit? How would integrate with your home?
You sound like I don't see a house, I see a home.
You see a home. A home is a concept. A home is not a tangible thing. It's a concept.
Concepts are ideas, but I see tangible. I interpret it as a concept.
Okay. That's exactly what I'm saying. That the human being, a tangible, points to a visible. What's a visible? A visible is something that exists on the intellectual level. If it existed only on the tangible level, I'm not interested. This same table, in form of wood and nails, it's exactly the same thing. Same weight and the same size, and totally insignificant. No, this is a challenge. Well, let's go back to the initial challenge, because we know the halacha that a person, less moments of his life is alive. But explain what it is. An animal, we go and shecht it, we eat it. What's the difference? Animals alive, lahavdil, a human being is alive.
What's the visibility element? What's the visibility element of food?
Visibility element of food, as explained this morning. As we talked about this morning. This morning we couldn't get anything to explain, but we pointed out all kinds of different things, trying to catch out, to get into the essence.
Chayas. Movement. Movement? Chayas?
No.
Sorry.
Please don't guess. Food that we eat. We relate to it not only by its taste, and not only by its benefit, by its nutritional value, by its appearance. First, it has to have a human and a pleasant appearance. Why? Because this human, a pleasant appearance, represents this food as an Abish's creation. And that's the food we can eat. We cannot eat any other food. Like I said, pardon me, don't puke. If you get chewed up food, and it still has all the minerals and all the the nutritional value. Can you eat it? Why not? Nutritionally, it's exactly the same.
Only if you're a baby and your mother chewed it up.
That's right. And even then, the mother is careful to chew it up in a very gentle way. It's true. But that's, the mother and baby, this is, they eat through the umbilical cord. This is the food we can eat, because that is the food that the Rebbe presented to us.
So we're projecting that relationship. When we see the food and we see the visibility element is that its appearance is beautiful, but even deeper than that it represents that it's being given by God. We're projecting.
We're not projecting anything. We're not thinking about it. It's a reality. Yes, everything that's beautiful is a godly creation, and it's created for us to eat. That's why I explained the other day many times today about the bracha. What is the bracha? You make a bracha, beina plicho eitz. Everybody heard it, right? Beina plicho eitz means he creates, but at the time I have it in my hand, it's already created 2 months ago. Then he creates the food that we eat, and that's the significance of the bracha. The food that we eat is not food that we found on the tree. We're not scavengers. We are human beings. For us, the food is being served by Meibushin himself. That's what the Eibusher said to Adam Rishon. That everything I created is for you, and I'm giving to you all the fruit on the trees to eat. And that's how we eat it. So when I have a fruit in my hand, at this moment, this is when it became food. Up until the time that it's in my hand, it belongs to the tree. It's not food for me. When it comes into my hand and I say, and that's when the Rebbe said, okay, this is for you to eat. That's when it becomes food. And that's how I can eat. To go and eat fruit from the tree is an insult to the human being.
So with a table and a dining room set in Macy's, you have to project because it's not in the home yet. But with everything we're talking about now, when you see the clock on the wall in a home, when you see the food, you don't have to project. What you see is that's reality.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. A human being, the tangible he projects into the visible. An animal, the visible he projects into the tangible.
He's not projecting.
Yes, he is projecting. Who? The animal?
Human being.
The human being is projecting. He's not looking at it. He's projecting how this would fit into his home.
With the dining room set, with the food.
The food is not. He sees the food.
He sees it.
But he sees it. So that's invisible. That's what he's eating. He's eating the visible food. That's what the halacha is at Shabbos. You have to have candles on the table in order for you to be able to eat the food. Because if you don't see the food, if you don't see the food, you can't even enjoy it. Who cannot enjoy it? The animal cannot enjoy it. The human being cannot enjoy it.
When it says
And how does this relate back to oyer?
It doesn't relate back to oyer. So far we are trying to identify what an etzem is.
The human being does this way because he's an etzem, he's a reality, and therefore whatever he comes into contact with, he relates to its reality, not its whatever else there is.
He relates, okay, yes, he relates to its reality. An only human being can identify that. And if that should be used as support for him, as food for him, it has to be the reality of it, not its components. He does not eat vitamins and minerals. He eats food that the Rebbe created in the form that the Rebbe created.
You don't make a bracha on the vitamin boy.
No, you don't make a bracha on the vitamin boy.
For the vitamin B.
No. I mean, if you take vitamins, you don't make a bracha. Bottom line.
What's the visibility in vitamins?
Huh?
What's the visibility in vitamins?
You don't eat it, you just swallow it. You can't even eat it. You just swallow it because, and that's not food. You know, whatever you take it in, it's like an injection. Eating means that you eat. You chew it up and you eat.
Well, some vitamins you have to
I'm sorry?
Some vitamins you have to chew.
Some vitamins you have to chew? Like for example, an apple?
Vitamin C. Vitamin C from the pharmacy. You have to crunch it in your teeth in order to.
Okay. Does it have a taste? Does it have
Yeah.
an appearance? Okay, so fine. So it's a representable, it's a proper presentable piece of food.
Tofu.
Tofu. Anyways, do we get the point now? That this is what's called an etzem. This is a human being. And only a human being can relate and can identify, can relate to that concept.
I mean, before when I said it is what it is. It's just that I guess this is a point of truth. Like we had, this is chokhmah, and hence it's beyond. It's not comparative. It's not logical. It's beyond words. So, okay. I mean, I understand that
That's an expression that's used in a totally different way.
What's the expression? It is what it is.
What it is.
Oh, no, I'm
Right?
saying
it's.
I'm saying it's beyond us.
It's meant to be something completely different than you're thinking.
Okay, fine. What I'm
Okay.
thinking of is
No.
that it's sort of beyond us saying much about it. Like this Chokhmah is a true spark that is elusive. So to the human.
It's elusive to logic.
Yeah,
It's
and
not elusive to the human being.
it's not elusive.
That's what the human being lives with.
But in a way, it is elusive because you don't dwell in Chokhmah. Chokhmah seems to kind of be a spark.
This is
that-
the only thing that justifies, that gives you, that makes life livable.
Experience of safety.
Right. It's the only thing that makes life livable, and you're in that. You have awareness of this. You're in this presence.
Well,
You're
if
in-
that's what, this is what makes life livable, then you have awareness, but you cannot, it's elusive to
Ah.
identification.
But the sense of it is ongoing.
Absolutely, that's
Uh-huh.
what your life is.
This is what your life
You
is.
can't explain it.
Cannot
You
be
can
described or
You can
grasped, but
identify it.
you experience and live with
You live
this
with it.
24/7.
Like we said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't want to get into the truth of the thing, but is this how I would now understand that Shemaim Shemaim Lashem, or it's notion of Nei Odom, kan koidem broche, kan lacher broche.
Yeah,
A person, a human being is a shooter by Mas Bereshis.
That's right.
This makes the world a world.
That's expressed in the halacha also in terms of the bracha. It's expressed exactly that way.
And shooter by Mas Bereshis.
That's right. That's
this is all
situation.
exactly what you
That's
said.
what gives a human being a special status in the world. No other creature.
By naming things like automation, by seeing things.
Okay, that's what we discussed. Yeah,
I don't want to get into that.
that's
I don't
why
want
the
to names
automation has
particular. I
that
don't want to get.
capacity and has that right and so forth.
Shuta for Master Bereshit, partner in making the world with Hashem.
In the creation of the world. Yeah. He complemented the world. This is what's called Chokhmah. And Chokhmah, it says befreidish, no grasp to Chokhmah. Chokhmah, on a conscious way, in a conscious level, is called a borag hamavrik, a spark that flies through.
What are you saying? This is called Chachma. What's the this?
This realization, this sense,
The seeing of the visible in the tangible.
Being a human being.
this seeing of reality rather than functionality. Does that answer your question, Baruch?
Say it again. I didn't exactly hear it. Seeing reality.
Mm-hmm. Relating to reality versus functionality.
Okay. Yes.
That is exclusively human. And only a human being in our world has that capacity. And here's the next, just a quick, because I'm going to go back to where did you get it from? From God. This is a godly spark in a human being. Because only God is a Metzias, is a real Metzias, is a real presence. Yashom Motzu Yidishim Mamtzi Kol Nimtzu, Loshen HaRambam, Me'amit is in Motzu Nimtzu Kol HaNimtzoyim. And this is the Amud HaChochma. The first perception of Chochma is that there is a truth. And from that initial truth, everything emanates. And this is the exclusive property of the human being. And again, only a human being can possibly understand this.
You call that a godly spark?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Tamim can say.
So it says Ayin Sof is made in Chochmah.
Well, there are all kinds of terminology, but yes. Ein Sof. There's a fundamental reality that's recognized in Chochmah. It's not recognized anyplace else. Okay,
That's good.
that's good. Once we,
For me, part of it is understanding what the Rebbe is telling us in this terrain that we've identified. Meaning now comes inyanim of Surah Atzmi and Mishalim that I don't see exactly.
okay, but so far
this is very helpful. This is very
good.
clarifying.
So we identified Ayin from the principle of Netz.
Okay.
And now we're going to the next step, and we're saying, and Etzim has an oil,
So it's name and ownership we're talking.
by which by human being is represented in terms of name, in terms of ownership.
So,
What?
I have a question
Not yet.
about what we said before.
If I say before, yeah, go ahead.
Etzim doesn't have a functionality.
It's not based on functionality.
Not based on functionality. So this recognition of reality, that's not called a function.
No.
Okay. It's an activity.
It's not an activity.
It's not.
This is what he lives. This is it.
This is it.
This is it. The reality.
This is.
He sees it because he's real. He doesn't figure this out. This is not. He doesn't get it through logic. This is what he is. This is the only thing he can relate to. And he brings to the world that sense.
It's an Neshama field.
Huh?
It's an absolute kiss field.
You know something? It's true. Then of course it's an neshama. Absolutely, is at the truly highest level, the godly level. But even a human being, there is a seichel anushi, also has an element of that truth. Seichel anushi by God also demands that he behave with respect, with dignity.
It's the Talmudim.
Huh?
The Talmudim.
Because there's a reality to human beings. Not a divine reality, but a reality, human reality. And he also knows that he must respect the human reality. Because, I said, I always think that the Seichel and Nushi is also based on the principle that the world is a creation. Seichel Anusha is based on the principle the world is a creation. All the human beings that are walking the earth, who have been forced to be convinced that they are evolutioned they evolved from monkeys, do not sense what a human being is. They don't have a human sense of dignity and respect. They don't.
COVID is a
meaning from oil, a meaning from recognizing the reality. Not functional, and they don't have that. They don't have that at all. We had a president who acted like a lowlife in the Oval Office, and then he goes out and he faces the world.
No shame.
No shame. No shame, like an animal.
Busche comes from Chochmah.
Yeah, no shame. And he's talking about good and bad, valuable.
He didn't even have the shame not to lie about it. He lied about it and he had no shame about that either.
It's crazy. It boggles the mind. And he's on the cover of Time magazine. That's the old Time magazine that I still have in there. It's crazy. It's a total decay of the human, a loss of the human perception. I've been mentioned many times. Reagan would not go into the Oval Office without a jacket and tie. And this idiot he's the president of the country. So there's the human being. That's why human beings were given by the Meibashim 7 mitzvahs, godly mitzvahs, because they have also a sense. This is a created world. The Declaration of Independence was written by human beings, by Goyim. They recognize the right for the human being is given to him by his creator. That's the principle. And if you don't relate to that, then you go down to animalistic perceptions. A Yid is in a different category. His life is dedicated exclusively not to live in the world, but to serve, to represent God. That's a different thing already. Okay. So, now we're coming back to the union of oil. Time is up, but as long as we have this, we'll pursue this. I just want to point out this, the whole discussion. It's very valuable, but the reason it came up is because we want to relate. We're talking to oil all the time. Shame is like oil. All kinds of identify oil. And the principle that we want to identify in oil itself is how oil.
It's not good for me.
What?
It's not going to be good for me.
What?
Coffee, so.
Sorry?
I'm with you.
You're here. Oh, coffee. No, okay, but you're here with me, right?
Okay.
That oil is no matter where it is to be found, is a reflection of the reality from which it comes. Because only something that is absolutely real, that only something that has this atzim quality, has oil.
Only something with its own quality as ore. And ore is, wherever it's found, it's a reflection of this source.
But this is what we learned over here. That oil always retains its atzmius quality, no matter where it is. It's nimshach from the Etzem. Nimshach from the Ein Sof. So we will use, we'll take 5 minutes, hopefully not more, because it's late. Just want to pin it down, okay? Because we have a very good way of illustrating this. If we have to strip a little bit our common way of relating to it, and then we'll see that. We speak about the sun. And Chassidus explains that the sun is an etzem behiri. This itself, for us, is not that quick to recognize. It's called an etzem behiri, and it means literally etzem behiri. Because the way we see the sun is, it's not etzem behiri, it consumes fuel and it's hot and the heat produces light. This is the way it is seen scientifically, so to speak, if you break it down. But as a human being, we see it differently. As a human being, we see that the sun is not consuming fuel. It doesn't. Consuming fuel has to show that the fuel is missing. It doesn't get refueled. It's not missing, and it stays unaltered for thousands of years. Thousands of years, and it produces enormous amount of energy. This is a godly creation. And God created the sun for us to be able to ultimately recognize and understand, have a sense of what an atzmi is. The light that we experience from the sun, this is true, I'm sure, by everybody. We don't realize why, but this is true. When we have daylight, and the daylight is because sunlight came to us here. It's not this presence of the sun per se, it is light that emanates from the sun. In our own perception, daylight is not light but sun. It brings us the sun element. What is sun element? Sun element is light through and through, not light that is being produced, created. Like a candlelight that burns up a wick, it transforms matter into light, into fire, and as a result of there is a light. No, light, pure light. The way light is in the sun, there is no darkness, there is only light. Daylight this is how we relate to it.
And we can sense that difference.
What?
We can sense that
difference, yeah, and I'm saying we relate to it that way.
This is pinning down, this is enabling us to...
One second, I'll come to that.
Okay.
But I'm saying, we actually perceive it that way. This is what light is. When we start saying, no, this is energy that deflects from the object, then it's a completely different thing. That's not light. Light means that, like visibility itself, it's impossible not to see it. There is no activity taking place in seeing it. It's just the visibility itself. I don't see by virtue of something occurring. I see it because it's visible, period. It's like the sun itself. Just like I'm not going to confuse the issue. So here we see that light in the true sense of the word, is bringing the truth of the etzem to wherever it reaches. And here's the final word. Again, we will meet Shem. Why is there light? Why is there sunlight? From a light perspective, I'm not talking the energy. Why is there light? The answer is a little bit shocking, but it's true, and we will understand it. There is light because there's an etzem behiri. If there's an etzem behiri, in the presence of the etzem behiri, there cannot be darkness. There cannot be darkness. Because the etzem behiri does not relate to darkness. This is why there is light. Why is a human home look like a home? Because you tit it up? Because it's inconvenient otherwise? No, because it cannot be but. Because a human home cannot be but a home. Do you get the point here?
There's a human being, so that's
Huh?
there's a human.
Because he's an atzmi, he's a human being. It cannot be any other way.
You can't live a functional life like hotels and everything.
Well, it's also too late. In the presence of an etzem, everything is affected by the presence of the etzem. That's oyer. This is called oyer.
So you'd ask, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
You'd asked in the beginning of this year that the world gains a significance by the presence of a human being. Is it through the aura of the human being, or just the presence of the human
Just the
being?
presence. The presence creates the oyer automatically.
Right, and the world gains a significance not through the aura.
No, by the oyer, the world feels the human being through his oyer, but he gains it
He's there,
because
so
of the human being, because of his presence. It's a real world. And to destroy this world would be a tragic thing.
Could we say that a person that is in tune with his presence is among other human beings that are not quite in tune, but his being in that presence awakens it?
Absolutely.
Other people could sense it too?
Absolutely. No question about it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because they also are human beings. Nebuch, in the last couple of days, I've suffered so much because I had to talk to people who I told them, your humanity has been usurped. You're not free to think like a human being. I go through him, very logically. I show him, kind of, he recognizes, oh yeah, very nice. And as soon as he recognizes it, something triggers and says, but what if? How do I know this is for sure?
Mm-hmm.
He cannot identify himself as a human being. It's a crime. You mean you're not an animal? Where do you get the audacity to say anything like that?
He wants to grasp it.
So, in conclusion, just one term, one thing. there is in fact a certain reality that only in our world, only the human being possesses it, only the human being is able to understand it, to relate to it. And if we understand that, then the Chassidus becomes an open book. Because only a human being can enter Chassidus. Torah in general, and Chassidus in particular. Can you say that? Okay, now we're going to double mind. Okay, have a good day online.
Hello, hello, can you
Yeah,
hear me?
yeah.
I'm not sure that we have a sponsor yet for the pavilion. We have half a sponsor that's Daniel.
No,